The following is a Shaw TV Public Affairs presentation. Constituency Report is produced as a public service by members of the BC Legislature through the facilities of Shaw TV.
Hello and welcome to Constituency Report. I'm Tracy Grimsrud. Very pleased to welcome Donna Barnett back to the studio today. She is MLA for Cariboo Chilcotin. Welcome back, Donna.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to have you here. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, especially with regards to fires. And unfortunately, we heard about another one late last week, the Tolko Lakeview Sawmill in Williams Lake. Any news you can bring us on that today?
I spoke with the company this morning, and of course there's still hot spots where the fire was in the sawmill portion of the mill. Mm-hmm. So basically they haven't really done their analysis because of the hot fire still burning in places. And of course WorkSafe is going to ensure that nobody goes in there when it's not safe, which of course we're all grateful for. Mm-hmm. No one was injured. The fire department, the staff at the mill, everybody did a great job, or it could have been worse. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens over the next week or two when they get in there and do their structural analysis to see exactly what damage has been done. Mm-hmm. The planer is still running because of course they were utilizing the sawmill at the time, mm-hmm. and you have to put the logs through the sawmill and then they go through the planer. So they will utilize what the sawmill has produced in the planer. Once that's done, then of course the mill will be shut down for we don't know how long.
Wow. And of course, the region was hit by this summer's devastating wildfires. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, and I hope I never do again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We've got some photos to sort of give people a sense of how hard hit the area got. Let's take a look at some of those. First off, we've got a photo of some of the ranch lands that were burned by the fire. How devastating are these losses for local ranchers and farmers?
They are very devastating. When you go into out in the Chilcotin and around 150 Mile and areas where the fire was intense, ranch lands were absolutely desecrated. You can take acres and acres. You just can't imagine it. You have to see it. How deep the ground was burnt, mm-hmm. how hot the fires were, and how far they went. You take Chilco Lake Ranch, for example, out in the Chilcotin, one of the biggest ranches there is, lost all of its fields, all of its hay. The grazing, there's nothing to graze for the animals. Oh. Just fences gone, everything gone. Fortunately, a lot of them stayed there by themselves. Those ranchers saved their houses and their barns and some of their equipment, which mm-hmm. was a blessing. But there's a lot of damage. But you know, those ranchers are out there working every day and rebuilding. Mm-hmm. It will take quite a while because the fires were so deep into the ground that the soil is burnt. Oh. And so there'll have to be a lot of work done, assessment, reseeding, replanting, mm-hmm. and it will take time.
Mm-hmm. Our next photo is from Crystal Lake. It was the Elephant Hill wildfire that caused this destruction?
Yes, the Elephant Hill fire that started in Ashcroft came all the way up to Loon Lake, Pressy Lake, Crystal Lake, Sheridan Lake. It was a very hot, quick-moving fire.
Mm-hmm. At Tatla Lake, search and rescue worked on wildfire evacuations, food supplies, and of course actually fighting the fires. Just one of the many groups working hard to keep people safe.
The Tatla Lake Search and Rescue group was amazing. They basically are the heart and soul of a little community called Tatla Lake and surrounding area. And they helped so much. They actually were out there for a few days fighting the fire till the wildfire service showed up. They were there when they had to evacuate people, feed people, and house people. Mm-hmm. They did an amazing job, as did so many volunteers throughout the whole Cariboo Chilcotin.
Mm-hmm. Our next photo features some damage caused to Pioneer Log Home site in 150 Mile House, and many businesses suffered fire damage and loss of business due to things like highway closures.
Highway closures were huge. Our tourism industry throughout the Cariboo Chilcotin basically lost the whole summer.
Wow.
They are desecrated. I don't know how many of them are going to survive through the winter because their big months are July and August. And of course, between evacuations and road closures and smoke, there was no tourism industry whatsoever in the Cariboo Chilcotin. And you talk about pioneer log homes. Yes, they lost 4 houses that were ready to ship.
Oh.
I believe they were going either overseas or to the United States. And one of their cranes, the bottom of the crane melted almost from the heat of the fire.
Wow.
And this fire was caused by lightning. And so it moved very quickly. But fortunately, we have great fire departments. And they have a volunteer fire department at the 150-mile house that did so much great work in saving places. And of course, the Williams Lake Fire Department was there to help. And volunteer and full-time fire departments throughout British Columbia came to our communities throughout the Cariboo Chilcotin, well, basically 100 Mile and Williams Lake and the 108, places like that, to help with structural protection. And so it could have been a lot worse.
You touched on smoke, and we've got a shot of some of the intense wildfire smoke that blanketed the sky. Not fun to deal with, especially for those with respiratory issues.
No, those with respiratory issues, a lot of them left and didn't come back for 2 months.
Yeah.
The smoke was like that for 78 days.
Wow.
It was intense, and it was very hard on people.
Some of your colleagues came to the riding to see the wildfire damage firsthand and also to see the untouched beauty of many areas. Were local folks happy to see the effort being made by the group to
They were
understand
very
the
happy to
challenges?
see the group that came. And that group there were at Chilco Lake, at the beautiful Chilco Lake Lodge, and Rome with the bear, where they do bear viewing and all kinds of ecotourism. Just the most beautiful place in the world. And fortunately, there was no fires there. It was untouched. And of course, I did have colleagues come, and 2 of my colleagues, John Rustad and Doug Klovecheck, did come and tour some of the other damage throughout the riding. And people were very happy to see that they come, to see that they were interested in what had really happened.
Of course, rebuilding from these tremendous losses is going to take a lot of time and a lot of assistance from the government. Do you have any concerns about their recovery plan?
It's going to take a lot of time. We're not sure what the recovery is yet. They have hired some people to go out and talk to people and see what their needs are. We've submitted many, many needs. Those of us MLAs that have been engaged in this, we do know what people need. And there's only one thing that helps businesses survive. It's cash and customers. And that's what's lacking in the tourism industry. And hopefully this winter we have a good snow winter where people can come and go snowmobiling and cross-country skiing and use our ski hills and ice fish and ice skate on our lakes. We hope that that's the start of rebuilding our tourism industry. We are looking forward. We can't look backwards, and hopefully that we get this burnt wood out of the bush as quick as possible, keep our mills going, because we don't want to touch the green wood. Because we do know, because of the pine beetle that devastated the Cariboo Chilcotin and other regions as well, has caused devastation in our forests. And so with the downturn of the annual allowable cuts, we need to get the burnt wood out and save the green wood that is merchantable for a future date.
Actually, I wanted to ask about the issue of harvesting that timber in wildfire-affected areas. Time is really of the essence.
Time is of the essence. According to what I've been told by professional foresters, I'm not a forester, that they have a maximum of 2 years. And some of it will be a lot shorter because some of it was burnt even greater. And of course, the companies have to spend a lot of money to retool for this particular bark. You know, there's lots of different equipment has to be put in place to keep the dust down, to keep the mill workers safe and everything, you know, working properly.
Another issue that's come up around the wildfires has to do with freedom of information requests. Not only the amount people are being charged to find out what happened to their properties, but also delays in getting that information. What do you make of that?
Well, it's hard to say because we really don't know whether there's an investigation going on from a fire. You know, if the fire, we know which fires were started by lightning, but if there's other fires, then there is questionable how they were started. So if there's an investigation going on, that information will not be coming, and you know that we all know that it can't when there's an investigation. But hopefully the people get the information they need to satisfy their lives. This has been traumatic. So people deserve peace, and they deserve answers as quick as possible.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, the community has really come together during this difficult period of time. And we have a photo of you helping to deliver supplies at Alexis Creek. Tell us a bit about this.
That was during the fires, when basically they ran out of supplies. And so gathered people, food, trucks, and away we went. And they were so grateful.
I believe it. And it looks like you've got a good group of helpers there with you.
Oh, they were great. We had search and rescue from South Cariboo, and we had volunteer firemen from Laclahash and Greeny Lake. And we went out there, and those people were so happy. When you've been locked up, your highway's closed, and you're running out of supplies, fresh fruit, vegetables, diapers, you'd be amazed how many people didn't have any diapers left.
Oh, yeah.
And you know how important that is, Tracy.
Absolutely.
So people were grateful for the crew that came out.
For sure. And we want to be sure to mention the T-shirt fundraiser put on by South Cariboo Search and Rescue. Are the shirts still available?
Yes, Darcy Foster and Shane Gunn were the leaders who put the program together. And basically it is now, they have a few left. But they basically have quit going out and promoting them because they raised over $100,000 in just a little over a month. And they've donated 50% of it to the local volunteer fire departments. Our volunteer fire departments basically are real volunteers. They don't have any taxation. They have to raise the money themselves.
Right.
So they've given the 50,000, split it up through the volunteer fire departments and the other to the Red Cross. And I would like to also mention back to Pioneer Log Homes. Long before the fires, well, maybe not too long, Pioneer Log Homes bought 2 fire trucks and donated them to the 150 volunteer fire department.
Wow.
So, of course, then the fires came along, and they were so grateful that they had extra equipment. So the communities have really, really been so generous is all I can say. You know, we've had fundraisers in Williams Lake, fundraisers in 100 Mile House. There's women quilting and quilting clubs throughout Canada and British Columbia that are making quilts and giving them to those that were affected by the fire, that have lost their homes and things. So it's just amazing. It brings people together. It brings the best and the worst sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And I hear you've attended many thank you events in the community as well.
Yeah. Yes, it's been really, really grateful. Lots of thank you events. And I think that everybody's thanked everybody. Hopefully, I hope there's nobody's been left out. And if there has been somebody left out, nobody intended it. We have to thank those people that fought the fires, whether they be firefighters or contractors, whether they be search and rescue or just ordinary citizens out there in the heat of the day fighting the fires, and to those that helped each other, and to those that gave, and it's just amazing. Yeah,
and as you've outlined in so many ways, these wildfires have caused so much damage to the community, but it's a really resilient community, isn't it?
Oh, we're tough. The Cariboo Chilcotin is resilient. This is the worst fires, but we've had many fires over the past, 10 years. The last big one was 2010 in the Chilcotin. And there's been one since, so we've had our fair share, but never like this.
Absolutely. A good time to take a short break here on Constituency Report. Grab a pen and paper. We'll put up contact information for MLA Donna Barnett, and we'll be back to chat much more with her right after this. Welcome back to Constituency Report as we continue our chat today with Cariboo Chilcotin MLA Donna Barnett. Before the break, well, indeed, the first half of the show, we talked about the devastating wildfires, and it seems more important than ever that government have a rural strategy. Have you heard much from the NDP on this?
No, we did have a rural strategy put together, a wonderful strategy we worked on. I was fortunate enough to be the first Minister of State for Rural Economic Development, which they don't have now. It's all under one umbrella. Minister of Forest, Lands and Rural Development. And so it's my understanding, and I've heard that they're going to have the fourth intake of the rural dividend. And then after that, it will change. It will go into something else. It's my understanding that probably what will happen is local governments will deliver it, but I'm not positive.
Oh, and that rural dividend program has been so important.
That rural dividend program was great because, you know, there's organizations out there that build trails, build ski hills, build all kinds of things, and First Nations who basically qualified for it, and now they won't have that opportunity if it changes. Let's hope it doesn't, but it's my understanding that it probably will.
Yeah, with that sort of uncertain at this point, and the Minister of State position no longer existing, do you worry that there's not as much of a focus on rural BC as you'd like to see?
I think time will tell. I don't think we can say that it won't happen. We'll just watch and stay on top of it and ensure that rural British Columbia does get their fair share.
Fair enough. The process of permitting is really key for industry. Any concerns on that front that you've raised with the Minister?
I'm always concerned about permitting, and today the Minister assured me that everything was moving forward in question period, but he still would not say yes, there was permits. And I know it's a process that takes time, but we don't have time. So I'm going to stay on top of it because it is so important that we get this burnt fiber moving as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. The government has certainly ordered a lot of reviews and consultations on a wide range of issues. Any thoughts you want to share on that?
Well, if you can review everything. You can keep reviewing everything. And if you never make a decision, nothing will ever happen. So hopefully their reviews are short, but very, very consultative. Like, let's not forget the people out there. I've heard them talk about we're going to review this with local governments, which is great. But you know what? You've got to go to the people. The people, you're responsible to the people. And so if there's going to be programs changed or there's going to be decisions made that are going to affect people in a way that isn't a way that's going to better their quality of life, increase taxation, one thing and another, take away something. Let's make sure that everybody throughout the whole provinces gets involved in the consultation process, not just a certain small group.
Definitely. And some of the government's broken promises sort of fit in with that theme of being responsible to the voters.
Yes.
They've kind of gone back on some of the things they promised.
Daycare, MSP premiums. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah. I wonder if the government's consultation process on the issue of proportional representation will take into account the views of people in rural BC. Any concerns on that?
I am very concerned about this. You know, a lot of people during the past election, when I knocked on the door, not a lot, 2 or 3 people asked me, they thought they were interested. And I said, yes, it's a topic. We've, had 2 referendums. And some people really still think that maybe that's the way that democracy should work. When you have a government, though, that is going to make the rules itself, change the goalposts, it's now a mail-in referendum, they will have 2 or 3 questions. They promised a yes or a no. We had 60% of a majority for the last 2 referendums. They're going 50% plus 1. That's not a fair and open process. It's a closed process.
Yeah.
And to me, it is wrong. I hope the people of British Columbia stand up and say we want a yes or no question. It's time the pressure was put on the government.
Certainly seems like they are stacking the deck to get an outcome that they would prefer.
Exactly. Yes, they sure do. And if it's successful, rural British Columbia will not have representation. They will appoint somebody from the Lower Mainland, which is not fair. And I think that if that happens, I think you'll see a lot of noise from rural British Columbia when they are not treated equally.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, rural BC has unique perspectives on issues, and to have someone who doesn't understand rural issues representing
Exactly.
them.
You know, when we go to resource industries, and I've been there for a long time, and I watched the protests and I watched the movement. It's not from people in rural British Columbia. It's people from urban centres. It's lobby groups that are funded by big, huge organizations, usually out of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
People in rural British Columbia know what they need to survive, know what they need to create jobs, and resource industries basically have built this province.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Revenues come from resource industries, not from film industries, not from tech industries. The royalties come from resource industries.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the NDP's lowering of that threshold for the referendum to pass. That could mean that folks in the Lower Mainland could really determine the outcome of the referendum. Another blow to rural BC.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the NDP have stacked it to satisfy their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And the Greens, NDP and Greens, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they both stand to benefit for sure.
Exactly.
Well, switching gears a bit on the healthcare front, have you heard much from this government as far as any improvements to Williams Lake Hospital are concerned?
Well, I have heard that the Interior Health, they had a concept plan done quite a few years ago, and of course our government announced that they would move forward with the business plan. So Interior Health had to update the concept plan, which I understand has been done.
Mm-hmm.
It's been submitted to the minister, and I have going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is going to sign off and get our business plan started.
Mm-hmm.
If not, I'll be back at the table.
I believe it. What are the needs there? Tell us the situation.
Well, the hospital was built in 1956. And of course, it really and truly needs a new facility. The staff there is wonderful. We have some of the best surgeons, the nurses, the caregivers are wonderful. Mm-hmm. And of course, we need a better place for them to work and for patient care.
Mm-hmm. On the transportation front, what about the Cariboo connector? Have you raised this with the Minister of Transportation?
Yes, I have, and so far, before the election, we had signed a contract to redo part of Carson to Toop Road in Williams Lake. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness the contract was signed. It's moving forward. Mm-hmm. We have a huge project that's been going on almost for 2 years on the south side of Williams Lake, a $47 million project. And in partnership, a lot of the work is being done with the Williams Lake Indian Band, and that's great that is ongoing. Mm-hmm. We have another piece that the ministry in estimates did say was moving forward, and of course we've had some paving projects that were all signed prior to the election, Highway 20, Highway 24, and some of Highway 20 couldn't be completed this year, but the contract has been signed due to the fire, so it'll be finished next year.
Oh, good.
Yes, and of course the ferry run from Port Hardy to Bella Coola, the past government had that put in place, so I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Cariboo Connector is a vitally important piece of roadway, isn't it?
It's a very important piece of roadway from Cache Creek to Prince George, and I look forward to seeing it completed.
Mm-hmm. Well, we always enjoy celebrating local success stories on the program. The 22nd Annual Williams Lake Business Excellence Awards were recently handed out. Any highlights to share?
Well, it was a great evening, great food, great people, and lots of awards given. I can't remember the names of the people.
I'm sure there's lots.
But there was huge. There was a business award, the Newsmaker of the Year award, and I do no, it was the Malosh. I forget her name. Anyway, she's a soccer player. She won the bronze medal with the Canadian women's soccer team.
Yeah.
And we're all so proud of her.
Absolutely. And events like that are a great way to get together with the community and recognize the diverse business community.
Exactly. And it was just a great evening. Always has been.
Mm-hmm. And of course, perhaps one of your favorite events, I would guess, the Williams Lake Stampede. It took place on Canada Day.
Yeah, Canada Day is a real busy day in the Cariboo Chilcotin. I have 3 or 4 events in one day. And first of all, in the morning, going to the Rotary Club, which I am a Rotarian. Mm-hmm. I'm on leave, but I am a Rotarian. And of course, the Rotary Club of Williams Lake does every year pancake breakfast and steak dinner. And they serve over 900 breakfasts
Wow.
during the Stampede. Just a great job they do, and just moving along. And I was flipping pancakes this year. You have to graduate. The first year I was only allowed to turn the potatoes, and then I got to the bacon. This year I got to pancakes.
Wow.
And every pancake has to be perfect, or my colleague I'm there with will not let them go off the grill. They go into the pot, not on the plate. And so they do a fabulous job every year.
Sounds like it. And is there anything beyond pancake duty that you're still aspiring to? Or?
No, well then I do that, and then we do the parade in Williams Lake, and then I go to the 108 Heritage Site and cook hamburgers for the rest of the day for the 108 Heritage Group. And then from there we went to 100 Mile House, who had a celebration in the park.
Yeah.
And so it was a great day for the whole Cariboo Chilcotin.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
And the Williams Lake Stampede, is that a big draw for visitors outside the area?
Oh, it's a huge draw. People come from everywhere, the States, back east. You know, you get people who are on holidays from Germany or Australia or wherever, and they always stop in at the Stampede. It is a great, I think it's the Calgary Stampede, I believe, is the only one bigger than the Williams Lake Stampede.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And of course, throughout the summer and fall, lots of great events in the region.
Well, there's lots of great events, lots of rodeos, which unfortunately they were all canceled this year after the Stampede. They usually have a lot in July and August, and unfortunately they were all canceled this year, but they'll be up and running next year.
Yeah, definitely. And you looked ahead to the winter months, lots of outdoor recreation
Lots of outdoor recreation. I say to everybody, come bring your snowmobiles, bring your cross-country skis, your snowshoes, your ice skates, your fishing rod. There is so much to do.
And what does Donna Barnett do when she's not here in Victoria, when you've got free time, which is hard to find, I bet?
Well, usually you're at home working with your constituents or going to events. Last weekend I went to a fundraiser and did some auctioneering for the Lions Club in 100 Mile House. And now on the 17th we have our Santa Claus parade. And there's just all the small communities in rural British Columbia have so many wonderful events for families and friends.
And wonderful people as well.
Great people, resilient, and how can we say it? Every challenge makes us stronger.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Donna. It's been wonderful to chat with you today.
You too.
Donna Barnett, she is MLA for Cariboo Chilcotin. If you'd like more information about some of the topics and issues we've discussed with Donna on the program today, please check out her website, donnabarnettmla.bc.ca. Thanks so much for watching Constituency Report.